What's up everyone, Lance Hedrick here, and today we're taking a look at the newly launched Flair 58 Plus 2. Now, of course, it's not that new, it's just a new iteration on an old design, something they came out with 4 years ago, where I first made my first video on a lever machine back in 2021. Spoiler alert, I really do enjoy it, and I've been having a lot of fun playing with it. I've seen the different changes throughout the years, from the Flair 58 to the Plus to that limited edition, and now to the Plus 2. There are some changes, some welcome changes, that I think does improve the user experience. So in today's video, we're going to take a look at that. We're going to do some testing with it, some pulling of shots with it, and we'll talk about its value proposition in today's market, and have a little comparison with the Cafe Lot robot. Now, before we get any further into this video of this machine, I would ask that you take a moment, hit the like button and the subscribe button, just so you don't forget. If you're new to the channel and you're not sure if you like me or not, that's fair enough. But if you've watched some videos and you just forget to hit sub, that would be awesome. I don't like to pander, but I still have the majority of viewers aren't subbed, and it always helps when I say something. So I'm going to say it and, take it or leave it. But thank you so much for watching regardless. I hope you enjoy the video. Let's continue on. The most welcome change, in my opinion, is there is no annoying temperature control box. That is one of the things I absolutely despised on the original Flair 58. I thought it was cool that you had an actively heated group, which is a great solution for these direct levers, since there's typically a lot of stainless steel that can suck out heat and you need to do a lot of preheating. So that is a welcome thing, that the box is no longer there. Instead, they have integrated the control right here on the base. What they've done is they've taken the cord itself, an AC/DC adapter, and they've put the plug into the base directly. And then inside where that plug is, it connects to another wire that comes up to the group head itself, which gives the power, the electricity, in order to heat up the group head. This could have been a little bit thicker, and you toss in the wire into the group head itself so that you don't have it exposed and look like you're plugged into the matrix. They said that it was a consideration, but apparently the marketing team thought it was a nice nod to the original, where it had the exposed wiring and it gave it a steampunk vibe that they actually liked. So I get that, but I would prefer a more minimalistic design. I wish they would have integrated it into the base itself, to where when you're assembling it, you just have to feed the wire through, connect it on the inside, and I think that would have been a really nice touch. It does have a brick technically, which is AC/DC converter, and can be used on 120 or 240 at 50 or 60 hertz. So that is nice, with a little fold-in prongs there. So you don't have that big power brick like on the original, but the cord itself is way, way, way shorter. It can't reach a floor socket very easily. You toss that back in, and boop. We're plugged in to go. I'm able to use this anywhere around the world with the same plug, just needs an adapter without needing to worry about transforming the power. I really did not like this. I'm very happy it's gone, but they carried over the button. You have this cheapo little button, and you've got the same cheapo little button on the machine. And for something that's supposed to have a bit of a premium feeling, especially at the price point upwards of $600 US, I just thought that this was not ideal. They could have done some really nice like anodized aluminum for that, which, yeah, maybe the price would have gone up a little bit in their cost, but I don't think overall, once they have the part made, that it would cause that much of a difference. And it would look really sick. It would feel a lot nicer because you're clicking this every day instead of having to click that nasty little plastic. Now, the housing of this is actually done quite well. I took off the 4 screws on the bottom that hold the bottom plate on in order to check out the PCB inside of here, and I'm happy to say it is completely surrounded by silicone, and there's no way any water is going to be able to enter into this crack and go through to the PCB. And this little LED light is actually a piece of silicone as well. So when you turn it on, you hold the button down, you have that nice little green light. And you have 3 different levels, as you did on the original Flair 58 as well. Well, let's move these annoying wires and pull out the old one. So with the old one, if the piston's all the way down and we pour water into it, look at that. It just comes straight out. Just right out the bottom. Nothing holding it back. This one, lever's all the way down and we pour water into it. Nothing comes out. So they have lowered the piston so water will not release, which I think is a great advantage. So for those who want to take their time, they want to pour water in, let it heat up using the electronic heating system in there. You can then do your puck prep without stressing, and then you can go and pull your shot with properly temperature water. Because when you have the lever up, the piston is also up, which means water immediately hits the bed and you want to start your shot immediately. If you're a fan of really big shots and you start with lever down, you won't get as much volume in the chamber as if you start with lever up. Whenever you lift up, you are going to have some headspace because there is headspace above the puck. Water is going to drop and fill the empty space below, but that empty space needs to be accounted for inside of the chamber. So that gives you kind of that spongy feeling whenever you're doing your shot, and it just kind of throws off the experience itself. So in order to get as little headspace as possible, as little air gap as possible, I actually prefer lifting the piston all of the way in order to fill my shot. This will A, fill up the headspace above the puck immediately, so when the piston's up, it will allow water out, and it gives you an extra 20 or so milliliters of water so that if you want to do a really big shot, you're good to go. In addition to that, if you fill to where the water starts coming out of the very top where the latch is, then you won't have any of that headspace. There will be no air gap. I'm not really worried about water getting on the grounds on that very top layer for 5 seconds before I pull the shot. I don't think it's going to make that much difference because we're using finely ground tamped coffee. So if it affects any of it, it's going to get through that screen and it'll just barely affect the top layer. So as you see on this one, you have the same connection as on the new one. Now on this one, I took off the connecting bit so that, I could pull it off if I wanted. I don't remember why I did that, probably just being a silly goose. But on this one, it's connected so this part doesn't come out, which allows for a better workflow when you're pulling back-to-back shots, and it just allows for a more easy in and out of the piston itself. Now another change is they have now released these little mesh screens, little billet screens, I should say, cut from stainless steel, as opposed to the mesh ones. Even though these have a better efficacy of extraction, as I showed in my puck screen video, it has an actual tangible effect on the extraction, and these do not. These are easier to clean. So as you see, it's just one layer with pretty big holes. So cleaning this is as easy as just rinsing it off under the sink. Whereas a mesh kind of requires an ultrasonic bath. And over time, they can get a little raggedy. So they chose kind of, they compromised the efficiency of the puck screen with the longevity of a billet screen. Now, in addition to that, it also is magnetic. So it makes taking it out a whole lot easier than the non-magnetic mesh screens. Now, it also comes with their tamper that they've been putting out since the limited edition. It's not like the original little plug tamper that was a bit annoying. This one is a nice palm tamper, feels a bit better, and it's a nice tamper to get with your machine, much better than what like Lelite sends out with those little plastic tampers that are a travesty to mankind. And then it also comes with this nice shot mirror, and there's a specific little area that they have marked out on the neck for you to put the mirror on so you can kind of watch your shot as you're going through doing your different pressure profiles. So of course we also have a pressure gauge here, which can be substituted with something else. Like on this one, I have the naked pressure portafilter, has a steampunk vibe to it, from Gabor at Smart Espresso Profiler, and I'm using a little T-split here so I can have the Bluetooth transducer on the back. I just don't have it plugged in now because I have it in another machine. But you can also switch this out if you want to get really anal with your profiling. You can transmit via Bluetooth your pressure to your phone, connect it to your scale, have all of the data that you might want. But even without using all of that, this does, it's immediate feedback. It's simple back pressure. So following that along allows you to do a lot of different pressure profiles. We'll quickly do a little scase test. We won't go too insane because I did a whole video of doing scase tests on the Flair 58 a few years ago. You can go watch that if you're curious. But we'll just dump water in and see what the immediate temperature is using a thermoprobe inside of the chamber itself with boiling water to see how, if it maintains the temp or if it drops, and see what the highest temperature kind of does to it. And we'll see what it's like going through the scase device itself without any type of preheating with water. All right, we've got the piston down, we've got boiling water, and this has been heated up and beeped at me, letting me know it is at its highest temperature. So let's pour some water in, and we'll take a temperature measurement inside. So I filled it up all the way, and we're at 90.3. Go all the way down, and it's at 87, 86. James Hoffman showed in his video years ago that the top seemed to be hotter where it was concentrating some of that temperature. And so we have 92 at the top, and then at the very bottom, it's about 86, which is interesting. Am I touching the steel down there? No. 87. So we'll let this sit for a bit and see if it increases in temp or if it just continues to decrease. If maybe, I'm not sure why it would re-increase, because we were at full temp, and so the steel should not be sucking much heat. It should be giving off heat. But yeah, 93 or so at the top. No, it is heating up some at the bottom. Nope, it is 86. So near at the bottom, that's a wild temperature differential. I'm trying to make sure I'm not touching anything. No. 89. 85 at the very bottom. Now I am touching the steel, 84.6. Go all the way back to the top. 94. All the way at the bottom. 86. All right. But that's just what it's at sitting in here. Let's go ahead. I'll switch this out, put this in, and we'll pull it through the scase. So the scase is definitely heated. I put it over the kettle as it was heating up just to have an idea of what it would be like. Now I need a cup. All right. So it's kind of boiling here on top. The heat is very high and it's bubbling up quite a bit. So let's go ahead and pull this through. We lift the piston. It allows the water through. There were some big bubbles there. All right, all the water's through, and I'm not all the way up. So that's how much you can get in the chamber if you fill it while the piston's down. All right, we're to 88. It was at 88.9. Oh, and it's going up a bit. Okay, it's going back down. There should be a little flick in temperature, though. Yep, it's going back up as that hotter water is now coming out. 89. And that temperature is going up. We're up to 90. Well, now we're at 90. 90.6. And now the water's gone, so it's shooting back down. So it's still doing the thing where you have a little temperature spike near the end, which is kind of the opposite of what I would want. That being said, a three or so temperature spike is not that big of a deal, though it is. I would rather it be a three or 4 or 5 temperature drop, which is why in the past I've talked about not really liking the heating element, because it does heat up that top bit of the water a bit more intensely than the last. But we'll do one more scase where I am actually going to start with this piston up. So we have boiling water. We're going to fill it up all the way. It shouldn't drip through because it has that tiny aperture on the scase that requires some pressure kind of to push it out. And we're filled up all the way. And then let's see what it's like. So we're at 89 and it is climbing. And now it's dipping. There we go. Oh, and now it's climbing again. And it's dipping again. I'm sure some of this is due to the fact that it doesn't have time to, I don't know. There's something about the temperature drift through the chamber. And I can't quite explain because I'm not as in tune with temperature dynamics. But it does seem that with the water, as it's just oscillating. It's going up and then down, then up, then down, then up, then down. Now it is climbing up with the last bit of water. Up to about 90.7. And as you can imagine, it was a little hotter this time around because we just put boiling water in, then we pulled a shot, so it was effectively giving it a preheat. But it seemed to have it less intense of just an increase throughout the whole shot whenever we started with the piston up. Don't want to read too far into that, but they both are going to give you solid thermal stability throughout the shot without having to preheat it. They're giving you close to 90 degrees, just shy of it, whenever you're using boiling water inside a fully heated 3-step system. All right, so I've cooled it down and then got it down to the one setting, the lowest setting of preheating. We're going to put boiling water in and we're going to see what the temperature is like in the chamber. So fill it all the way up. And at the top, we're at 88. Yeah, about 88. And at the bottom, we're close to 85. The very bottom, it's even cooler, about 82. Yeah, 86, and go to the top, about 87, 88. Okay. Okay, so all the water's through, but there's this much room left. You could get another 10 mils or so in there, if not more. So there is some air gap. Anyway, here we go. 82.7. We'll see a little spike probably to 85 at the end. Maybe. It's actually going down. Should go up. Let's see. 82.2, 0.3, 0.4, 0.5, 0.6, 0.7, 0.8, 0.9, 83, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35. So I got up to 83.5. So it does have that little tail at the end where it kicks up. But that's the lowest setting, so we can probably intuit that the middle setting is going to be in between that, 91-ish, 90-ish, 88, 9-ish. So like 85, 86 or so for the middle one, which is great for 3 different types of roasts. I mean, I would do really dark roasts at that 80. In fact, my Streetman is set at 82 degrees when I use dark roasts. And then the medium, it's probably good at the second level, and then light roast at the highest level, especially because it does kick up over 90 during the shot itself. So it does a good job with thermal stability, though it does have that kind of kick up in temperature. Now, something I like to do when I'm using it is I'll use this to preheat the chamber, just so I don't need to pour boiling water in. When it dings, I actually turn that off. And so I let it actually kind of cool down or not have the actively heating element going on. So I'm just warming up the stainless steel. And then I rely on the temperature of my boiling water to be adequate. That way I'll have some sort of descending temperature, or at least a stasis of temperature throughout the duration of the shot, so as to not have that kick up. Now, for those wondering why I wouldn't want the temperature to go up throughout the shot, near the end of the extraction is when we're actually beginning to extract those volatile organic compounds that negatively affect the taste in the cup. Here's a chart from a paper by Dr. Samo Smirke, a well-known coffee scientist I quote very often in these videos because he's one of the few dedicated coffee scientists that's constantly pushing out information and data. But we see that on this chart, after you hit 18, 19 or so % extraction with espresso, you are getting less desirable compounds that are extracting out of the puck. And so higher temperature has a higher potential of extraction. So I would like to lessen the potential extraction as the shot goes on, which is why I love more vintage lever machines that pull water into the group head itself, and then the temperature cascades drastically throughout the shot, along with the flow rate of water through the puck and the pressure of the water being experienced inside the puck due to the lessening resistance. All right, we've got our coffee locked and loaded, our temperature on the lowest setting, so I'm using a darker roast, and then let's start our timer. And let's get some pre-infusion, quickly fill the puck, let it sit at about 2-3 bar until about 10 seconds. We got 10 grams in the cup, then we're gonna ramp pressure up to 9, and slowly let it cascade down for a pretty quick shot. And there we have it. 1-to-2 ratio. I did 22 grams in the basket, 44 out in just under 30 seconds with about a 10-second pre-infusion at about a 3 bar. I don't like sustaining 9 bar for too long, so, teach their own. But anyway, I'm going to purge out the rest of this, and we're going to taste the coffee. So, of course, there's going to be some extra water in here. Like I said, it can do about around 60 grams, 60 mils of water. So there we have it. That's all out. So this is what happens when you have an air pocket. You see that? So that's after I pulled back up. I introduced a lot of air into it because there wasn't enough water. I'm introducing a ton of air above the puck. Now see all that air coming? You can hear the air hissing, that's the word. Anyway, let's stir it up and take a sip. Delectable. That is thick, rich, creamy, bouncy, and it has that toasted marshmallow I really like. Anyway, let's increase the temperature and pull a really light roasted shot. All right. We've got some light roasted Diego Horta, a Colombia coffee that we're roasting out here for Onyx Europe, and super light, really floral and sweet and fruity, loads of strawberries. Let's go ahead, pour this boiling water in, and get a shot going. Hoping for a slightly faster shot, but we're going to see. I kind of guess on the dial. But that's one of the beauties of direct levers is you can fix any shot that's coming out by just manipulating the amount of pressure you're exerting over the puck to help dictate the shot time, the contact time, the pressure it's experiencing, the flow rate of the water through it. But let's get this going. Start the timer. And here we have it. Oh yeah, there we go. So we're gonna do like 2 bar right here. We're gonna go up to maybe, oh yeah, it's a gusher. Go down to 3. We're gonna pull a really big shot. All right, 15 seconds. Gusher, we probably peaked at about 4 or 5 bar. Now you may be thinking, what the heck? Why would you do that? I had a 24 gram dose in there. So pulling out about 60 is not even a 1 to 3 still. So I did a 24 gram dose because I like them really thick pucks, you know. And it allows for coarser grounds and it allows for more even flow of water through the puck. This is going to be super aromatic. I'm really happy with how that pulled, actually, shockingly. So let's see how it tastes. Actually, we should stir it. Get all the layers together. Like ogres, they have layers. So let's see. That is insane. Actually, I need to dilute it a bit because it's pretty insane on the fruits. The strawberry was too intense for me, being a naturally processed coffee. That was intense. I like it a bit more subtle. When you add some water to some espresso, it can change everything. It's like opening it up, similar to other beverages when it's too concentrated. And even at that big ratio, I could have pulled more, but I went through the whole chamber, so it is what it is, but it's a pretty nice shot. I'm not a huge fan of having to use electrics when I'm using these kind of more portable, I guess, machines, but I think it's because I have the fallacy of always relating everything to the robot. So the robot is something that I personally love, and a big reason I have this kind of hanging here. This is not typical. Don't worry about it. But the reason I love it is it's steeped in history. It's based off the Faemina baby, which is a machine that came out in the I believe it was. It's either 58 or 68, I can't remember now. But I've done a video on the history of it, and it was something that came out to be used in the home. And this, Paul Pratt, the inventor of this, essentially took the design and made it more robust with stainless steel instead of aluminum. Other than some gaskets here and there, there's nothing really on this that could ever really break. It's an incredibly robust machine, and it is just a basket. So thin stainless steel that doesn't really need much thermal management in order to have good tasting shots. So essentially when you put in boiling water, you're getting about 88-degree water, which is good enough for most any roast level. I know that some people with really light roast want to really peak the temperature, and you can, and it could help bring out some sweetness or something like that. But even with this 88 degrees, I think it does a great job. You can preheat the piston to help a bit more, but in general, this is a no faff, no nonsense, easy to carry around, indestructible $400 or $500 machine that is going to last lifetimes, and you even get some extra seals with your purchase in general. And similar to this Flair, depending on how you fill the water up, there's no real fear with having too much or too little headspace because there is no headspace. You pour water directly on top of the puck with this little shower screen, and so there's no headspace to worry about. So you're going to get that tasty, no headspace effect of getting better texture as you can with this if you pour water in while the lever is all the way up. What that means is you could use a 30-gram basket and put in 15 grams, and the headspace issue you would face on a pump machine or something else where there is a gap between the powder and the water, you won't have here if you're filling with the lever up. With the lever down, you still have that issue, of course, because when you lift it, then the water's released. But in general, you're not going to get that air gap in something like this because you're able to fill with that lid up. Now, in the robot, you will always have some sort of an air gap unless you fill it up so much that when you put the piston on, it unloads some of the water over the edges. So you will have a bit of an air gap here because there is no valve in order to release the air. The workflow is a bit easier when you have a portafilter you can pull in and out that is big and you can tap really hard. While this is a portafilter, I found that is a bit more annoying because if you turn it over to tap it out, the whole basket just kind of comes out. So there's a different style of workflow with this that's not as bad as like a Flair Pro 2 or something where it's just a little thing that you have to like undo the daggum gasket up and pull it out and tap it out and get all messy. So a lot of people like the workflow of this, and the fact that it heats up on its own is great. The robot you don't really need to preheat, but it won't get to the temperatures the Flair can get at its highest heating setting. This has a much thicker stainless steel kind of collar up top, whereas this is just a basket that needs to be heated up. So the heating properties are also very different. This being on so many different angles and having so many different points that could potentially be rubbing against each other that could fail over time or get loose over time, whereas this is just a pretty simple mechanism. 2 arms lift the piston and go back down. I mean, you can look into that, but for the most part, this is an anodized aluminum. It's built really well, and the base is aluminum. It's all built quite well. This is stainless steel, maybe a bit nicer, but in the end, they're close to the same price. This is going to be cheaper than the new Plus 2, but they're in that $500 to $600, maybe $700 range, and both make incredible espresso for that kind of 58 millimeter design. Now, of course, I still would prefer a much smaller diameter, but you can always compensate by updosing like I did here with 24 grams in the basket. It's compatible with other 58 millimeter baskets, whereas this one, you're kind of stuck with just the robot basket, though I do think it pulls really nice espresso. You aren't really able to play with the other accessories, which I know is super important to a lot of people. I don't necessarily think that you must get this over this or you must get this over this. I think that there are going to be different people wanting different things. I think there's a lot of flexibility with the Flair that maybe you can't get with the robot, but there's a lot more robustness with the robot and simplicity and more history behind it with it that is difficult to get with something like a Flair. I think that does it for the review today. We went over temperature stability. We went over the different temperature levels. We went over the piston being deeper. We went over the cord being kind of like a matrix. We went over the integrated power button. And we went over just the normal differences between it and its predecessors. We pulled some espresso with it. We looked at the different ways of filling it up. And I think in the end, you're well equipped in order to understand if this is a machine that you might want, or if you have one, maybe some tips that will help you improve your espresso, like filling while the lever is up, or if you want to have a little bit more time, let this heat up the water or maintain the temperature of the water, which it does quite well, then you can kind of leave it down as you prepare your coffee so you're not kind of in an anxious rush to get it all done. I would just suggest, as you're lifting the lever, letting the water you've already poured in go down, watch it, and when there's still a sliver of water near the top, that's where you should start your shot, only because you don't want to introduce air into that chamber. It'll help you quite a bit, and I think you'll see an improvement just in general with your shots. Thank you so much for watching. If you're interested in winning a Flair 58, Plus 2, a Flair 58, check out my Patreon down below, because these will be going out to lucky winners in some competitions. So if you're interested in that, check out the Patreon. Hit the like and subscribe if you haven't already. It helps the channel quite a bit. But in the end, the most important thing and what we strive to help you all do is to brew something tasty, which is something I hope you do today. And cheers.